One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. It's BV. It's BV. BV. It's BV.
Yeah.
It's BV. It's BV.
BV.
It's BV.
BV.
It's BV.
It's BV and Jellified, Jimmy Bean and Bly. Reaching high as where we reach, yo, as high as to the stars. Beats in the villain Jeep, vibrating other cars. Whose world is this? Yo, we say the world is ours. So we grow beards, no fear. Photos so clear, take another shot, so to speak. Yeah, more beer. BV worldwide, put a fist to the sky. Cheers, cheers, New Year's, dope rhyme, good vibes. My crew speaks power, Chi-Town bleeds power. Knowledge, wisdom, and truth in the final hour. Respect, loyalty, family, charity speaks power. Here the village brotherhood speaks honor. Forwards and onwards, stay villain to the end. I will never shave again because my beard is not a trend. I represent excellence, leadership, and never follow. I'm a BBC member, yo, lieutenant of Chicago.
One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. One brotherhood, one ship. Stay bearded, stay feeling. It's BV. It's BV. BV. It's BV. It's BV.
Hello and welcome to episode 33 of The Heart of a Villain, the podcast devoted to the bearded villains worldwide brotherhood and the lives they are changing all over the world. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For those of you who are on the live stream here on YouTube, I greatly appreciate you guys hanging out here once again for Friday Night Live. And everybody else who's listening later, either on a restream or a replay on YouTube or on a regular, normal podcast platform, I greatly appreciate you guys too. Man, I'm excited for today because, I'm excited, but I'm a little bit, I don't know, not say nervous, but just a little. It's going to be a different. It's going to be a different vibe today. Different setting for the podcast per se. We're going to do a few things. We're going to do one major thing that's been different from previous podcast episodes, and that is we have no interview guest. Not even me. We have no interview guest this week for a few reasons, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But this is episode 33, and it kind of gives me a chance to look back and why 33? Well, 33 is just a fun number. Just so happened to work out that this gives me a chance to look back, talk about a few things that have happened in the past, and some of our really interesting stories, guests, different things like that. But this is all going to be about inspiration and about trying to push people through to stay positive, stay motivated. We're running into a time right now with the COVID, with the pandemic and everything else that's going on where, people are just kind of, it's like we're just kind of walking in circles. Some areas of the country are starting to open up. Some areas are still somewhat shut down. And that is the case all over the world. As I found out in talking to other brothers from around the world, and some of you have listened to that and noticed that, but even now, living in Indiana, we're opening up in a big way coming up here, and it's just interesting to see how other states are handling things, how other countries are handling things, and there's other countries out there that are not even close to opening up, and that's their choice. So we've got brothers all over the world who are walking in circles, as I say, looking for ways to let out that heart of a villain, waiting for guys to, they want to get back out there. They want to be able to see their brothers, shake hands, give hugs, get back to the stuff that we do so well. And time's going to come when that's going to happen. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to just kind of help motivate and bring us back to center where we normally are. If you're watching on the live stream and you don't know who I am, this is BP from the Bearded Villains of Indiana and also from the Heart of a Villain. I do appreciate you guys again for being here today. I'm going to check in here real quick on some of this chitter chat here on the YouTube live stream. Real quick, I just wanted to say and bring him into bring his little comment into the mix. I love seeing, obviously, new people coming into the fold here, but new people coming into BV, which is even more important. And Aaron Carpenter sends a little note here. What up, BP? Hope you had a great week. My name is Aaron Carpenter. I'm a supporter in the West Virginia chapter. Loves the podcast. Really great to see new people coming in, and I love to see the comments. I love to see all that stuff. I love to see when new people come in, see how jazzed they are about what the heart of a villain can, or I'm sorry, what the heart of a villain can do as far as, pushing through the different objectives of what the bearded villains are all about. So they jump on here, they listen to the stuff, and they realize that truly how big the bearded villain community is. They realize how far-reaching the bearded villain community is, and that's really what I wanted to do with this. It's as we'll get into here in a little bit, but you guys know that, those of you who have been listening for the 32 other episodes that we do have. I appreciate you guys for being here. Slam's in the house, of course. We've got Jess, Cole with the HTX salute down in Texas. Of course, we got Ohio. We got the Irishman. We got Jay in the house. I'm gonna get in trouble if I don't include some people in here. I do appreciate there are hillbillies in the house too. Let me make sure if I get anybody else. I don't want to miss anybody. I'm going back through my comments here if I didn't. So I appreciate you guys. I say that a lot. I appreciate, but you know what? That's what it's all about. I got mad love for everybody that's tuning in to this thing. I had a dream of what the podcast could be, and it's just growing and growing. And I've got some cool stuff to talk about for the future coming up here in a few minutes. So, friends, please don't forget, since you are here, that you must like the bearded villains. You must like bearded villains, bearded men, or something like that. So if you do, please do me a favor and get out there and click subscribe and like on this YouTube channel. It'll help me out and help push the drive of what this channel is all about here on the YouTube. And you'll also be alerted when new videos come out, and they will be coming out as things start to open back up. You're going to start to see a flood of new videos that I'll be creating. I've got so many different ideas about things. Unfortunately, right now, with everything still somewhat closed down and the social distancing aspects that are still in place, I'm a little limited on what I can do. So that will change in the coming months, and more videos will come out. So absolutely keep your eyes out for that. So if you want to learn more about the bearded villains, make sure you are subscribed to this channel on YouTube, but also make sure you are subscribed in the podcast platform as well. No matter where you listen in the for a podcast, it's always great so that you can, if something gets, if you can't watch this on the live stream, most people that consume this content do it on the podcast platform. And we are out there. The Heart of a Villain is out there in all major podcast platforms, and you can find us all over the place. So just get out there, subscribe to that. That's obviously free, and you can listen to your heart's content. Go back to any one of the other 32 other episodes. I will say, if this is your first time finding the podcast, they do get progressively better, I think. That first one, boy, that was a dumpster fire, aside from probably even including the interview I had with Von Knox. So wish I could do that. We're gonna talk again in the future. I'll be doing another follow-up interview here with him before long, somewhere down the pike, and I don't know. We'll figure that time out. Okay, so something cool. I'm looking through my notes here. Those of you who are looking on the live stream, just to make sure I cover everything that I wanted to cover. In case you did notice, and in case you missed it, the Bearded Villain main chapter page, the Bearded Villain home chapter page, had a merch drop today. Pirate related and all. And so if you are still looking for some of the stuff that might not be sold out, get over there and grab some of that stuff. I know there was some comments of people disappointed in some of the merch, how quickly some of it sold out. And the only thing I can say to that is, that is not anything that any of us have any say-so in. So the only thing I could say is that send a note somehow to VK, to Fredo, and see if that's all set up through him. That's his baby. So I would reach out to him and maybe make some suggestions about possibly putting limits on how many patches people can buy during the first 24 hours, or I don't know how hard that would be to set up. But if he, request that he could do that, request that for the first couple of hours, it only be to, BV members. I don't know how you'd get that, because the ranked patches are wide open to purchase anyway too. But you could make those recommendations. I don't know if he'll listen, but that's all I could say to that. I don't know what else you can do. But the merch just goes, and I know they send out a note to tell you it's coming, and they give you a countdown clock. But aside from that, I know it's difficult because there's people all over the world trying to buy them. And if people are buying 5 and 10 of those items at a time, it can be difficult to see how you could get one. So I do understand. It reminds me back in the days of the old Ticketmaster tickets for concerts back in the 80s, when you'd have to go to the record store and stand in line and then hope that you could get those tickets, because nothing was online, because they didn't have online back then. I remember going to the mall and seeing how long those lines were. People, you had to stay out, camp out, and boy, those were the days. You don't have to do that anymore. You just camp out on your computer and hope for the best now. But there's something to be said for that old style of things, right? That, those who really, really wanted it and wanted those tickets, they could probably guarantee themselves getting tickets to those concerts, the tickets they wanted, if they were willing to spend the money on it, if all they did was just camp out and just wait in line. Eventually you'll get there. But now it's just kind of, the roll of the dice. So that would be my recommendation on that. So real quick, also something really cool I've got in the works for the Heart of a Villain. Just today, I started. It's spent 4 hours on the phone with customer service trying to make a website thing do what I wanted it to do. Wasn't working so well. I think I'm finally on track to do what I want with it now, but we will see. But that's the big news right now, specific to the Heart of a Villain, is that I'm creating a website. We already have the page that's on the Simplecast site that's the direct link for all the podcasts. So you can go back there on the Simplecast site, which I'll bring up here, theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. So out there at theheartofavillain.simplecast.com, you can go and listen to all of the other previous the podcasts that were previously done, if you can't do it on your normal podcast platform. But there's also a link there for the store where you can get shirts, patches, pins, and all that other stuff. But I wanted to create an actual website for the Heart of a Villain as well, so that I could put some content out there that would have a little bit more lasting power. So in the future, my hope is that I will be able to do like a monthly feature on a brother, and be able to put a picture in there, have a little bio for it, and have like a little bio story about a brother, and just kind of randomly pick a brother, or have people nominate brothers that we could do. And it would kind of be in like a blog capacity there, where we might do an interview for the podcast, but then also we would have each month, somebody there on the website that's kind of featured. So I think that would be very cool to do. But one of the really neat things that I'm planning on doing, and it's ironic that the Bearded Villain main page just started doing this not too long back, because ever since I started the Heart of a Villain, I kind of had hopes that I would be able to do this. And I'm going to try, for those of you who are online right now on the Hoojamajigger here, I'm going to try, let me see if I can do this while I'm talking to you, because I want to bring up I'm going to try to do this if I can while I'm talking to you here. I want to bring up, because what I've created here is a interactive map similar to what people have seen on the website for the Bearded Villains. But I wanted to create an interactive map that shows which chapters have been represented on the podcast. And then also a quick link, when you click on that chapter area, you can see what chapter or what episode number it was that you can see what episode number it is that the specific chapter was on. So I'm going to try to bring this in so you can see it now. And those of you who are on, but you'll have to watch the replay later if you're just listening to the podcast here. And I know it's going to get boring for just a second, but I will try to describe for you what it is. Okay, so you'll see here that I've got this map, and you'll see a bunch of icons here, and I'm going to try and zoom in here. And all the icons that you see listed right now are different chapters that have been already previously featured in some capacity on the Heart of a Villain podcast. And so the idea here is that you can float around the globe. And what's really neat to me is, as I was compiling this, and it took several hours for me to set this thing up. In a lot of ways, I'm not super tech savvy. Other ways I am, but many ways I'm not. And so it took me a while to figure this out. But the cool thing is that with this map, you'll be able to scroll around. And once I saw all these little icons on this map, it was just to see an actual picture that shows exactly how far around the world I've been talking to people for this podcast. That's when it really kind of hit me, and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing to see, and to see it in a picture format. So I'm really excited about this. So I'm going to scroll around here, and as you see here on the United States, I'll just click on one. I'll just pick, say, New Mexico. And so when I click on the New Mexico, you'll see it brings up them, it brings up the image, but then it brings up a description that says episode 23, and then it gives you the name of the episode. So you can scroll through if we want to go to, say, Wyoming. Click on the Wyoming one, gives us their logo, and tells us episode 28. So you can scroll around, and this is a totally... hopefully the people online right now are able to see this as well. I'm hoping. I'm trying to do it that way. So you can actually click here, and we'll click over here into the UK, and we'll find out there's the Blackshire villains. And the Blackshire villains were featured when? Episode 30. And it gives you that episode. So this is a really cool way, I think, that we can do this to show what the different chapters are doing. I'm excited about that, and we'll see if I can break this back down here and get back out of it. Okay, I'm going to try to close this out now. And boy, I've got lots of windows open now. This is why we don't do this stuff live, guys. All right, so we are back. Okay, sorry about that, but that was a really cool demonstration. I was hoping that everybody would see it and like it, but hopefully people that are watching right now were able to see that. That will be live on the website at a time hopefully sooner than later. But that was something I really wanted to do, and to be able to bring that stuff up so if people wanted to know when was this chapter on, they don't have to actually search through the vast space that is, the all the podcast sites. So that's out there. All right, guys. So what I wanted to do today with the podcast is kind of delve into the heart of a villain, what the heart of a villain is all about. And many of you have heard this story before, but when I was trying to come up with a name for this podcast, I was trying to think of, what does the bearded villains represent? What does it do? I know that we have, the pillars of what the bearded villains stand for, but if I were to have a podcast that accentuates what the bearded villains are, the thing that just kept coming back to me was the heart. And everything that we do, we have heart. And in every way that we are representing BV and ourselves, that's what it comes down to. So I want to talk for a minute here about three different things. And this is kind of the focus of this podcast. So hopefully those of you around will still stick around to hear about this, because this is an attempt by me to try and remind everybody what it is we're about, what we're fighting for within BV circles, and what we can, just a way to focus our thoughts right now, and kind of a way to stay hopeful for the coming months when we're able to get back to what we know. So I'm going to break this down a little bit, and there's kind of three areas that I want to break this down into. Number one being the heart. Number two, ways of inspiring and being an inspiration to others, but also to our brothers. Perfect example of that is earlier I talked about Aaron jumping in here, and the new guys that come in, the new blood that we bring in as hopefuls, as supporters and then hopefuls, when they start to see exactly what the Bearded Villain community is all about. But also, outside of that, the heart of the villain is so that we can share all this good news with other chapters from around the world. And I'll go into that in just a second. But the reach of what this show can do to tell other people about the Bearded Villain community is amazing. And I've seen it firsthand, and some of you have as well. And then also talk about leadership a little bit, and developing and providing some examples of what we've been able to do with that. So real quick, let's just get into with as far as the heart goes. Winston Churchill had a really interesting take on things. I like this quote a lot. He said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. I love that, because it in a nutshell right there, it speaks so well for, I think, the Bearded Villain community as a whole. We have so much that we can give other people. And what we need to recognize is that, we all have jobs in our personal lives. We all have different things going on in our life, in our personal life. And I know I said for years and years and years that when I was working in law enforcement, law enforcement is not what defines me. It's a job that I do. And I know everybody else, so many of you will also, take this to heart too. But what you do in work, you can't let that define who you are. You are who you are because of what you do. And so I love that. I love that kind of the thought that goes into that quote, because it's so true. I'll bring that back up here again. We make that living by what we make a living by what we get. So you make that living by the different things that you bring home, that that are a different part of your life, but you make that life by what you give to others. And I think that's so well spoken. We just need to keep that in mind. Right now, there's so much going on in the world, and there are people losing jobs. We've got brothers, even today, even yesterday, this week, with some businesses staying closed, some businesses deciding that they need to shutter their doors for good, and people are still losing their jobs. But what we need to recognize is that those things are not who we are. It's a really good chance for us to show our heart. It's a really good chance for us to step up and kind of take a new approach and find some way, follow your heart, and find some way to, follow your own dreams and do something really different if you can. We can't be afraid of doing that. If nothing else, this time that we've gone through has shown us that, that people are starting to transition into new ways of doing things, into new parts of their life. And, you need to, I think it's really imperative that all of us find, with so much negativity going on in the world, it's imperative that we all find some way to improve ourselves in what we give, and how powerful that can be to our life. So going into the heart, I love this one here. Elizabeth Andrews said, "Volunteers do not necessarily have time. They just have the heart." Now, this one to me speaks so deeply because a lot of people assume that those people that volunteer their time for things just have all this time. They just think that, you're volunteering all the time. You're a part of something so much. We all of us as brothers know, there's a handful of people out there that you see everywhere, all the time, no questions asked. They're everywhere. And others, you see when you see at other events, but don't just assume that just because people are there all the time that they have all that time. Volunteers do not necessarily have the time. They do not necessarily have the time. They just have the heart. So one of the things that we're talking about having heart, and something that we need to, pay attention to, is that we need to recognize that all of us in the Bearded Villain community, we do have that heart, and we need to show it. We need to make sure other people see it for what it is. How does that sound to you so far? Yes, Ryan. Ryan says this episode is deep. Wow. Yeah, I told you we were going to be doing something a little different this time, buddy. We're taking it up a notch here. And this is just, like I said, if you came in late and you didn't hear, this is my attempt to try and kind of motivate us and let us recognize the fact that even though we are still somewhat shut down, stuff is starting to reopen, and we need to address things a little bit differently. And we need to find new ways. There's people that have, throughout this whole thing, have been finding ways to help out, have been finding ways to, make a big difference in the world still to this day. So that's something that we definitely need to. We've got chapters around the world, and I've got one that I'll be talking to probably in a few weeks that organized a clothing drive and was able to still do clothing and food drives for the homeless as a chapter, despite this, even with the social distancing. So that is it's just so amazing, and to see that, this is a chapter that's not even in the United States, and that's one of the things that I love about this about this possibility of what the heart of a villain represents, is that I want people to see what they don't normally see. I want them to be able to hear about things that they wouldn't normally hear about. And it's not just in the Bearded Villain community, but there are some brothers around the world doing some absolutely amazing things as chapters, and we need to be inspired by that. So it's just something to take into heart. But going back to that those are the heart. That's the heart of what we do. That's the heart of a villain, right? And as I say that, I think it's important also to take into account and consider that we need to also be inspirational. We need to inspire people. And Mahatma Gandhi here said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Now just think about that for a second. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. I sit there and when I first saw that quote, and that goes back several months, when I first came across that, I know people maybe heard that before several times, but it's inspiring. It just drives it home that, anybody who has taken part in any of our BV events to help other people, how that feels. And I know myself that, I don't feel right. I don't feel complete if I'm not actively helping out other people, if I'm not trying to find a way. And I know that I've expressed that to people during our mid-morning super awesome live stream Facebook show, when we try to be inspirational Mondays and Wednesdays to start our day off. But that's just the way I've been for as long as as long as I've been an adult, I think, trying to stay positive and trying to recognize the fact that there are so many people out there that need motivation, that need to be pushed, need to be lifted up every day. And I think that one of the things that we can do as Bearded Villains and Bearded Villain supporters and people that, believe in what the Bearded Villains are all about, that represent us, is that we can be that focal point for people. We can be that thing, that tangible thing that when they see us, when they see those crossed swords, when they see the beards, they see the tattoos, they see all that stuff, they don't think of it as a bad thing, as something to be scared of. They'll look at that and they say, there's those Bearded Villains. Those guys inspire me to do more. It goes back to that whole theory that, you've long ago, I first heard that theory about ripples, and you know how that works. You drop one drop in the pond and you see those ripples go outward. And the thing I love about that ripple theory is that you never know the lives that you will touch by one good act. That whole pay it forward thing and how other people will react to it. You have no idea how far reaching the positivity and that inspiration that you can provide to other people. You have no idea how far that can go. And so I think it's so important for us as Bearded Villains and Bearded Villain supporters to be that inspiration for other people when they see us, to see what we do, what we stand for, and the ways that we can find a way to just make a difference in other people's lives, put smiles on their face, make their lives better in some way, even if just for a short time. Those ripples can go far-reaching. And whether they decide down the road that, there's some bearded guy that hears about us and hears what we stand for, and they want to become a part of us, that's great. If there's women out there that want to just be a part of what we do because of how they feel when they're around us, and they want to be a part of it too, and they have that heart, they have that inspired heart, then heck yeah, that's an incredible thing that we can do to help inspire all these people. And so, and that's not even considering the kids. I mean, we are all in some way, shape, or form, whether you are a biological parent or not, you're a parent to your brother's parent, to your brother's kids. And when they see that, we as men, they see what you stand for. It can be an amazing thing. So many of I think it's important to recognize, so many of our paths that bring us here to the Bearded Villain community are so different from one another. And, I came from law enforcement. I know so many brothers that came from the opposite end of the tracks who had a very rough upbringing and spent time on the other side of law enforcement and either served time in jail, served time in prison, but have turned their lives around in an amazing way. And youth, with youth comes stupidity sometimes, and you learn and you grow, and as you do, you become a better person for it. And so I think it's so amazing to see what our Bearded Villain brothers, what the different things that we can bring to the Bearded Villains. We have so many different avenues of approach when you think about where the diverse ways that all these people come from. I don't know how to explain it. I shake my head every time I think about it, because it's such an amazing thing to see. One of the first events that I was ever at, I was speaking to a brother who said, I want to talk to you because, boy, we have such a different lives. And he tells me about the being on the wrong side of the law a few times and how he got mixed up in this, that, and the other. And, and I take it from another side of things. And it's just, there's people that have worked, 30 different jobs and can tell you life stories from, different sides of the tracks. And, I think one of the most amazing things that I love about this brotherhood is that it brings us together regardless of, the color of your skin, regardless of your sexuality, regardless of where you came from. It's not where you came from, it's where you are now, and it's the man you are now. And that's extremely important to realize. We are who we are. I'm a firm believer in this. We are who we are because of the life we've led. We are where we are, and we are who we are today because of that life that we led. And it's made us the men and women that we are today. And it's extremely, you have to recognize how important that is. You don't have to have any negative thoughts or any regrets for being what you've done and for the person that you were. All you have to do is flip it. And if you don't like the person that you are right now, become a different person. Make a change. And that change will make you who you think you need to be. I just, I'm talking in circles a little bit here, but we are a product of what we grew up as, and that molds us, that develops us, and that makes you who you are inside. But it doesn't make you, right or wrong. It just makes you who you are. And it just shows the diversity of the different people that we have in the Bearded Villain community. And I think that alone can be an inspiration to people, for people to see that and to see that we've got this guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, and they're all different people that look completely differently. They talk differently, but what is it that makes them in common? What is it? It's that heart. It's the heart. It's the giving heart. It's that volunteer heart. It's that heart that wants to make a difference for other people. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. I love that. Henry David Thoreau said, "Not only must we be good, but we must be good for something." Wow. Okay, so let's take that into context here for a second. Not only must we be good, but we must be good for something. Wow. Think about that for a second and realize that, just being a nice person, that's all fine and well. And you can go along life and be that nice person. And you can be good and you can live that life and just, trolley along and do your thing. But to be good for something, it's to live for something else. It's to live, I think, for something greater than you are. It's to live for something greater than yourself. And to me, again, these quotes that I'm spouting out here and that we're talking about, I think very plainly, and there's many, many others out there, but I wanted to bring up a few of these that were a little bit more obscure that maybe people hadn't heard of before. And I love the kind of in-your-face way that Henry David Thoreau says that. Not only must we be good, we must be good for something. Because how selfish is it if you are a good person and you just go along life when you're good for yourself but not others? How amazing is it that, we have an opportunity while we are here to not only represent the bearded villains, but as a bearded villain, show people that we represent something else, that we represent, trying to improve people's lives, make them better, just one opportunity at a time. So I think that's extremely important for us to consider and think about, is that we have to be inspirational and be leaders in that regard, that we have to live for something. And obviously you're going to live for family. You're going to live for your kids. But what a great example you can be for your kids when you live for something. And that something is, you have to determine what that's going to be. But I think one of the greatest things that you can do is live for something that is not of you, that is not for you, and that is solely for helping somebody else out. So I'll leave that part at that, but that's that was a good one. So the last one I want to hear talk about, and don't leave me yet, because we got a little bit more going on with the podcast today. But I want to bring up this John Quincy Adams quote here. He once said, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader." If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and be more, you are a leader. It's funny because I mentioned in a previous podcast that somebody once said, when there was a celebrity that passed away, and it was a celebrity that this one celebrity that was talking about it knew, doing a broadcast, knew very well. And I wish I knew who he quoted, but he quoted somebody saying that perhaps one of the best things that you can ever say about somebody is that you are a better person for knowing them, and that you are a better person for having that person in your life. And that's a great sentiment, to be that for somebody and to be able to have that impact. And that goes back again to those ripples. But, those ripples that you can that outreach that you have to touch other people's lives. But you just think about that for a second, about how you can affect a positive change in other people's lives. If your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more, you are a leader. And I think that's so perfectly written for life, but it says a lot to what the bearded villains are. And this one I left for last because I think it's so telling because of everything that the bearded villains stand for. We want to inspire others, and we want to inspire them to be better people. We want to inspire them to dream. Have those dreams. We want them to, don't hold yourself back, especially right now. Especially right now with the way everything's going. This is the perfect time. Well, there is no perfect time. But why wait? You can't live your life wondering what if. You don't want to. Trust me. So many people have. So you need to dream. You need to follow those dreams. If there's something that you want to do that's going to make your life happier, do it. Don't wait. There are ways that we can affect change in people's lives that we're just holding on to. We're just, waiting. And I'm sad to think that I waited longer than I wanted to create this podcast. I wanted it to be perfect when I started it, and we all know it wasn't. But I wanted this podcast from just a few weeks after I, found the Bearded Villain community. And it took me a long time to have the courage to just kind of do it and go. And I wish I wouldn't have waited. So, as he says, inspire others to dream more. Inspire others to learn more and do more. We have so much of an opportunity as men, and I think, sadly, the traditional man role seems like has disappeared, and I don't mean that to be critical of people today specifically, but the father figure man that you always looked up to do stuff, it seems like to me, and I base this a lot on my 20 years in law enforcement and the people that I came across. But we have an opportunity as men to stand up and be a role model to not only our own families, but to others who don't see that father figure, that don't see that man figure in their life. And we need to be strong, and we need to be able to do that thing for whoever needs it. We need to be there for people. We need to be a strong, that barrier that will stand up and help represent, help out other people in any way that we can. But if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. And I think that's true in so many ways about every one of the people that have decided to join in with the Bearded Villains, because that's what you are. You are a leader. There are people out there today who just want to live life, and they live for themselves, and it's just as simple as that. But we want to live for something greater. We want to live for others. We want to help other people. And one of the things I love so much about thinking about it that way is, and I've talked about this a few times before too, if you remember, the Bearded Villains did not start under that premise. The Bearded Villains were not created to be charitable. The Bearded Villains were not created to help change other people's lives. The Bearded Villains were not created specifically to have the brotherhood in the capacity and in the manner that we currently have it. So how did that happen? That happened because a group of amazing men decided we want to do more. A group of amazing men said we want to be more. And because of that, the Bearded Villains are who they are today. A group of men said, we have an opportunity here. We all have beards, yes. We can take pictures, yes. We can share stuff on social media, yes. But we have an opportunity, and in many cases, as I said, being leaders, an obligation to do more and become more. And that's exactly what has happened. So we owe a great debt of gratitude to those brothers who have been the OG people, those people that were in the beginning. 5 years ago, for many chapters, when the Bearded Villains were just starting out, look back at those chapters that started things off. And if you want some stories, you're going to get some stories from some of those OG guys that have been around for a long time. And it's humbling to see, and the I think the greatest part about it is that these guys who I'm referring to would never even acknowledge it. They won't stand up and say, I had a part in developing the Bearded Villains today, what they are today. It goes back to that heart. It goes back to being inspirational leaders. And they said, we have an opportunity to give back to our communities. We have an opportunity to give back to people who need it. We have an opportunity as men, as Bearded Villains, to do more and be more. So I just wanted to acknowledge that for a second and recognize those guys who back in 2015 started the first few chapters of the Bearded Villains and recognized and saw it. They had the forethought to see ahead and see what the Bearded Villains could be. And it's because of those guys that stood up and said, we want to do more with this. We want to be more, that we are who we are today. So we need to take that into consideration, guys. We have an amazing opportunity before us. And yes, things are tough right now. Things are a little bit weird, a little bit hectic. But we can't lose sight of what the bearded villains are and what they have become and what we will continue to push them to be in the future. And that is a powerful force that can affect positive changes in people's lives in a way that few other groups can and choose to. And we are a far-reaching brotherhood of men. This is not just the bearded villains of the United States. This is not just the bearded villains of Europe, of Australia, of Asia. This is the bearded villain worldwide brotherhood. And we have chapters over 160 in number now around the world doing amazing things. And that's what this podcast is devoted to. And that's what I hope to continue to do in the coming months, is to tell you guys about all these other chapters. Now, one of the neat things I didn't bring up yet is that in the coming months, or in the coming weeks, hopefully my plan is to be able to get some more of our overseas brothers on the air and interviewed. As I've said before, sometimes it's difficult if they don't speak English, because that's all I speak. But in the coming weeks and months, I will be also, aside from several chapters here in the U.S., I'll be bringing in the brothers from Luxembourg, from Switzerland, Belarus, Kuwait, and that map that I showed you earlier, that interactive map that's going to go live pretty soon, is going to grow and grow. And my hope is to eventually one day be able to, in some way, shape, or form, cover every one of our chapters to the best of my ability. And I'm excited for the future of it. But we're definitely going to grow. We're going to continue to grow. And we're going to continue to be those ripples in other people's lives that will send those forward. And we're going to do amazing things. I'm really excited about it. I hope you guys are too. I know it's a crazy time, and I hope you guys see, I hope everybody can see what the bearded villains can be because of what it has been in the past. And we're 5 years in, guys. The bearded villains in general, 5 years old. Some chapters 4, 3, 2, some brand new. But we're taking the example set by the guys before us to do better and be better. Be those leaders. So I thank you guys for indulging me a little bit in that aspect of things, so I could bring that up and talk about that. Yeah, we were getting some powerful stuff going tonight, guys, but I wanted to definitely bring some of that stuff in. And it's important for us to think back and realize how far the bearded villains have come. It's easy for us to just look back and say, 5 years, 5-year anniversary, party, have a good time, 4-year anniversary party. But every once in a while, I think it's important for us to sit back and kind of dive back into where we came from and just kind of reassess and take hold of what we have been, but also look to the future of what we can be. And this is a great time to do it, because where are we right now? We're not doing anything. We have some events coming up I'll talk about in a few minutes, but that are coming up, and some different places are starting to open up. And things will get back to closer to normal by the end of the year, I'm sure. But this is a chance for us to find new ways to be that change and affect people's lives. And I'm hoping that everybody takes the leap, takes that opportunity to try and jump in and do that. Hey guys, if you are looking for an all-natural beard oil that will not only tame your beard and your coarse hairs, but make your beard soft and smell amazing, check out Pulpo Beard Oils. Veteran-owned and made for today's beards, Pulpo Beard products combine the best ingredients on the market with incredible customer care and service to ensure your happiness. Whether you need beard wash, beard oil, beard balm, or something fun, Pulpo is the place to go. Feel fresh, feel savage, feel confident with Pulpo Beard Oils. Go to pulpobeardoils.com and use the code The Heart of a Villain for a discount on your order. Okay, guys. So it's that time again where we bring in our calendar of events. And, well, we only have two specifically, but I'll mention at least one other. I have not heard yet any specifically bad news regarding the Knox Villains event. Knox Villains, June 13th. I know they had a hiccup with their location, and they're still working on trying to remedy that. There was a hiccup with the venue location that just came up in the last few days, and it was unbeknownst to them. It happened at the last minute, and it was something well out of their control. And so somebody could be chatting with me or typing a message to me right now and overriding this, but to my knowledge, everything is still on track. We're just searching for a new venue, and that's for Knox Villains. Hopefully that can take place because it's important. Why? Because it's benefiting the Autism Society of East Tennessee, and it's hosted by the Smoky Mountain Bearded Villains. So I don't have a location yet, but hopefully that will take place. There's a Knox Villains chat you can get into online, or just hit up the Smoky Mountain Bearded Villain chapter, and you can find out more information about that and where everybody will be gathering. I know there's people that said, regardless, they're coming into town. So in Knoxville, Tennessee, June 13th, get a hold of those boys and find out what's up so you can help out and be there with your brothers. Also, October 3rd is the Battle of the Beards 3. That's hosted by the Bearded Villains of Southern Indiana. It benefits the Gresham House, and it's at the American Legion Post 44 at 711 State Street in Newburgh, Indiana. That's Battle of Beards 3, October 3rd. It's always a fun event, good one to go to. If you're anywhere near Southern Indiana, be there October 3rd. Also, there is a multi-chapter meet that's still in play. If you're anywhere in the, I guess it would be the southwest, if my geography is correct, or the west, or, well, hell, anywhere. The Four Corners meet September 11th through the 13th. September 11th through the 13th. And if you don't know, Four Corners is New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. I would hit up any one of those chapters. I don't have a specific page or information for that, for information if you're interested. But that is the weekend that it's supposed to happen, September 11th through the 13th for the Four Corners meet. And I'm blanking right now on the specific location where it was set for. But if you hit up the guys in New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, or Arizona, I'm sure they could tell you about the Four Corners meet. Okay, guys. So real quick, just lastly, I want to mention I've had some questions about this, so I did want to cover regarding the merchandise available. There's shirts, patches, pins that you can buy on the website, theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. We've got some new stickers coming in that go with the orders, a little bit bigger stickers than they were in the past, but we do have stickers that go with them. Pins, little 1.5-inch pins, and the shirts. There's going to be a slight surprise change to some of the shirts in the future, so wait on that. But nothing cosmetic that will make you cringe, I don't think. But so you got shirts, patches, pins, and all that fun stuff available on the website, theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. All right, guys. Man, I appreciate Aaron. I appreciate you chiming in and being here for the whole podcast. I'm glad to see that you, as a newer guy in the coming into the Bearded Villain community have found us. Pass it on. Tell everybody about it that hasn't already heard about it. It's a great place to learn about what your other brother chapters are doing around the world. For sure. Okay, guys. Well, hate to say it, but that's going to wrap up episode 33 of The Heart of a Villain. Special thanks to, well, everybody who is a supporter, lover, fan, friend, and brother of the Bearded Villain community. You guys inspire me daily, and I don't know what I'd do without you. So thanks again. I'm really excited to continue things and look to the future. Remember, you can still buy those shirts, patches, pins on theheartofavillain.simplecast.com. Don't forget, the heart of a villain never stops beating. Finally, guys, remember, it's okay not to be okay. If you are hurting, find a brother to talk to. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. So for now, have a great weekend. Enjoy the week ahead and take care and stay safe.
And peeps cleaning up on hoarders. When Blah, Jelly, and I, we come together, transformers. So when we meet up, handshakes, brews, and salutes. Every brother is different, finger